Yeah, hello and good morning to everyone joining us today for our webinar together with our gold partner Zoho and Atira. Hi, good to see you.
Oh, thank you, Julia. Hi, how are you?
It's really good to see you, Atira, and happy to have you back here. So we haven't met personally, but I met your colleagues at GMS this year in June. So it was really, really good to have them, and we had great conversations. So we said, let's continue these conversations and just use them as a starting point. And then you came up with the amazing topic of 10x your conversions, and Andre and I said, yes, let's bring that to a webinar. So happy to have you today. Atira is running the product marketing at Zoho, and you're based in India, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And so we're really happy to get some insights from you today. And with us is,
Thank
of course, Andre. I think I don't need to present Andre to you. I hope that all of you know him as the founder and CEO of Konversionskraft. And Andre will jump in with questions that you ask directly. So take the chance to use the chat and ask all questions that you have during the webinar. Yeah, and we will also have some poll questions that we're happy to share with you later.
Yeah,
Yes, the
let,
stage is yours,
yeah,
Atira.
let's get things started.
All right. Thank you so much, Julia, for that wonderful introduction. And Andre, I want to thank the team for having me over and do this webinar today. So I'm really, really excited. So okay, so let's. I'm sure everybody knows the topic, so I think it's straight away. Let's just kick things off. I want to start with a common scenario that I think almost everyone here can relate to, right? You check your analytics dashboard, you see the numbers that you've worked so hard for, thousands of visitors coming in to your website, the traffic's high, everything's looking good, right? Until you check your conversion metrics. Now your conversion metrics could be sales or signups, right? You see that the numbers are flat, the conversions are just not there, right? This is a universal pain point for digital marketers, for e-commerce managers, for business owners. It's the most frustrating thing when you're doing so much to get people to your website, but then they're not doing what you want them to do, right? So this problem is not, so right now, whatever we're talking about is not that we're not able to attract enough people. The problem in this case is that we're not able to convert them. So lack of conversions, right? Now, I want to explain this with an analogy. I want you to think of your website as a bucket. You're pouring in money, you're pouring in time, effort into getting people onto your website, right? But if then your conversions, right, if they're not happening, that means all of your hard work is just leaking out. Now, every single visitor that leaves without converting is, not just a person who didn't buy something. They represent a bigger thing. They represent the wasted ad spend that you used to get them there. They represent opportunity cost of that, potential revenue, a potential customer who could be like slipping through the cracks and probably going to a competitor, right? So this is going to be the core of our discussion today, right? It's about plugging those leaks, right? So this brings us to the crucial question, because to be able to plug them, we need to know why. So why are people leaving? Why aren't they buying? The answer, almost without exception, is a friction point. A friction could be anything that slows them down or confuses your users or discourages your visitors from taking the desired action. So it's not just one obvious thing. It's often a series of small, almost invisible obstacles. So it could be that your headline doesn't match the ad that they clicked, or it could be that your checkout form has too many fields, or maybe it's just that the font, right? Simple things as that a font is too difficult to read. So it's the why that we're after. So to give you an overview of some of the common friction points that most businesses would come across are UI and UX friction. Is your navigation too confusing? Is the CTA button not visibly distinct? Then you also have copy friction. Are your headlines too vague? Does your product description focus too much on the feature, but doesn't talk much about benefits? Or do your users have to guess what your product does, right? Then you have technical friction. Page speed, right? Page speed is a massive problem. If your page takes too long to load, consider your users gone. Nobody's going to stay back to see what your website says or what you're about. And then you have trust fictions, right? People are hesitant to share personal information, even you, right? When you have to share out your bank details and things like that, a lot of us are hesitant to share all of this. So you need to ensure, like, do you have those trust signals in your website? Do you have testimonials of similar users who have given those information and have had a good experience with you? Do you have a clear privacy policies, right? So these are some trust fictions that can get in the way. And then you have funnel friction, right? Does the landing page fulfill the promise of the ad or the email that got your users there, right? So each of these small things add up to a cumulative feeling of frustration, and eventually people just give up and leave. So I'm sure a lot of you guys would also have those friction, right?
And that's why we would love to ask you, right? Which types of friction do you experience personally most often? So you can select several ones. And I've put all the ones that you listed here, Atira. So we have them all. And if you have anything else that comes to your mind, also just put it in the chat. So please do the vote now. You should see the poll question up now. Great. Thank you. So the first ones voted. I give you a few more seconds.
That's a point where I say we don't continue until everybody voted. It's the same with A/B tests. We need a good sample size.
Yeah.
45%.
I mean, and many additional friction types come into my mind while I think about this, like product, if my product is weak or my brand or positioning is weak.
Yeah.
But I could add that to funnel friction or anything else.
True. So we have around 60% who voted. Is that enough for you, Andre? Mm.
Guys.
Come on, one more second. Yes. Okay. Almost 70%. That's good.
Good.
I think that's fine. Let's close the poll and I show you the results here. So most of you have UI and UX friction with 75%. And around 40% trust and funnel friction, a bit less with only 25% copy and technical friction. And no one has other frictions for the chat.
Interesting.
All right. So let's move on then. So one key takeaway from everything that we have covered so far is that high traffic does not guarantee conversions, right? So this is a crucial thing that we need to remember. It's a crucial mindset shift, because for so long the focus has been on SEOs, on social media marketing, ad campaigns, right? On getting people to the top of the funnel. But now we know that getting high traffic is only half the battle, right? But if you know that a friction is the cause of your leaky bucket, then we need to stop pouring in money into getting more traffic and start focusing on the quality of the user experience. So think of your user journey not as a simple visit, but as a guided tour. Are you providing clear directions? Are you providing or removing obstacles along the way, right? So the difference between a high traffic, low converting page and a revenue generating machine is in the way you manage that journey. So a great page, right, is not just attracting, but it's also compelling people to perform certain actions. So the goal is to move from numbers game to a strategy game, a strategy that is built on data. Now, this introduces us to our next challenge, right? Earlier, I said if you know there's a friction that's causing a leaky bucket, right? Then stop pouring in money. That's what I said earlier. But this is our challenge. The friction points are often invisible to us, right? The creators, because we're just simply, too close to our own work. So the toughest part about this is that the person who has designed the page or the one who's written the copy, right, is often the last person who can spot these problems. We suffer from something called the designer's blindness or a creator's bias, right? We know how a funnel is supposed to work. We know how a button or what that particular button does, and we assume that our users will also think just like that, right? But they don't. They're new, they're impatient, and they're looking for a path with least resistance. So our challenge is to put on a different lens, a data back lens, to start objectively seeing what our visitors are actually experiencing. So this is where we transition from identifying a problem to gathering enough data that will show us the solution. Now, this is where we start, or the data backlens that I talked about, right? This is how you do it. So the foundation to every conversion rate optimization, all successful experimentation is data. It's not about making a gut feeling change, or it's not about what your competitor is doing, right? So it's about building a solid evidence-based case for every single change that you make. So before you can even, start thinking about running a test, you need to understand what the data is telling you. So it's almost like, you going to visit your doctor, right? You go to them, they don't just straight away tell you what your problem is. They ask you questions, they run enough tests, right? They look at that data, they even ask you for any historic data that you might have, right? So we need to apply the same level of rigor into our approach when we start slicing and dicing into what our website is about, what it's doing, and what's happening there. So in the world of experimentation or CRO, we talk about primarily two types of data. There's quantitative data, there's qualitative data. Now the key is to use them together, because quantitative data tells you the what, right? It's the numbers, it's the facts, it's the metrics, right? So it tells you how many are clicking, how many are dropping off at a certain step, right? It's the what that's telling you, but it doesn't tell you really why, right? That's where qualitative data comes in. That is, it's the voice of customers, right? It's about understanding their intentions, their frustrations, their motivations. So the goal is, like I said, to use them together, because if you're just depending on the what part of it, the quantitative, and you're not mixing the why aspect, you're just making an educated guess there. So using them together is going to help you build a truly informed hypothesis. So let's start with the what, right? That is the data that I believe most of us are familiar with. You can use tools like Google Analytics. Then you also have web analytics in Zoho PageSense, right? You want to look at conversion funnels. Where are the biggest drop-offs occurring? Is it your product page? Is it your shopping cart, or the final checkout price, right? You can look at metrics like a bounce rate. Is it high on your landing page? That tells you that the page might not be relevant to what your users were expecting. You can look at exit rate. Where are people leaving the journey altogether? Are the pages eventually, like every website is pretty much going to have 100% exit rate, because people are going to leave your website at some point. But then you can always look at what are the pages that they exiting from. Are those the pages that you expect them to leave, or are they not the pages that you expect them to leave, right? So the goal here is to identify the problem spots in your funnel. So these numbers, they are like a map pointing you towards the friction point. And this is our first and the most crucial source of information. Now, once you have, you know what the problem is, thanks to your quantitative data, you need to start understanding the why, okay? So the first tool that you can, of course, look at are your heat maps. They show you where your users are clicking, scrolling, what parts are being ignored. Then click map is a form of heat map, which, specifically focuses on the clicks, showing you, these hot and cold spots on your pages. Scroll map shows you exactly how far down the page users have have scrolled before they left, or which parts have been completely missed. And then session recordings are like a movie of your user's entire journey on your site. You can literally watch a user struggle with your form, or clicking on an element thinking that it's a link. So all of these tools that I just spoke about, right, they turn a cold number into a story. So it shows you your users' frustrations in real time. And then beyond the visual data that we spoke about, you can of course hear from your users straight away. So this is where your surveys, your direct feedback comes in. You can use on-site pop-up surveys to ask questions like, what almost stopped you from completing your purchase, or was there anything that was confusing you about this page, right? So you can ask them questions like this. You can also use your follow-up customer surveys to gather more detailed feedback after a purchase is done. And then you have chat logs. The chat logs are a gold mine of information about the issues, some of the questions that your customers face. Now, if you want to have a deeper learning, you can of course go ahead and use interviews, conduct focus groups. You can ask a small group of people to talk about their experiences. This can provide you a rich, detailed insights that probably you can't get from anywhere else, right? So all of these methods that we spoke about give you a direct access to the thoughts and feelings of your users. User testing. Now, user testing is a really powerful method where you ask users to complete, a specific task on your website while you observe them. So there are a lot of user testing tools out there which help you recruit your panel, or it allows you to even recruit, people of your choice. So you can bring in people for this user testing. So there are three methods that you can do, where you can completely do it remote, where you give them a certain task that they complete in their own time and give you the feedback. Then you also have remote moderated, something like this, what we're doing right now, where they are completing these tasks remotely, but then there's always a moderator who can understand from them what their issues or what their experience has been. Or you can completely make it moderated, it's face to face, right? So when you can give them in these tasks, it would involve something like this, where you ask them to find a certain thing on your website, like a pricing page, or you would ask them to complete a purchase, and the users would often provide a running commentary, verbally expressing their thoughts and frustrations. So this is an extremely valuable qualitative data. And one such method in user testing is also something called 5-second testing. So where you show your website to your users for about like 5 seconds, and then you ask them, what do you think this website was about? Or what do you, think that the CTA button was? So the idea is that if your users can't tell what you do in the first 5 seconds, then they're pretty much gonna leave, right? So this helps you see, or measure your website's initial clarity, your value proposition. So both these methods, give you a deep insight into your users' mental models. Then copy testing. Some of you said that you've had copy testing issues. Not everybody, but yeah, copy testing is also one of a crucial layer, in our qualitative research, where we often think that friction is a design problem, but it's just as often a messaging problem. So copy testing is a structured way where you put your headline, your call to action, your value proposition in front of the user before you even build an A/B test. So you ask your users, which headline which headline is more clearer, which description is more compelling, or which call to action button is making them feel more comfortable or confident to click. So this allows you to check your websites clarity, messaging and all of those. Then you also have something called preference testing. That is, if you combine it with copy testing, that would be great, where people use two versions of their website, and then they show it to their users, and then they ask them which version do they prefer and why. And similarly, competitor preference testing, where you show your own website as against the competitions, and then you ask users or your audience, like, which one would they click on, or which one do they prefer, and again, why. So these methods are powerful because it allows you to validate your language. You ensures your messaging is clear, it's more it resonates with your audience. It saves you a lot of time and resources on your A/B tests. And then comes heuristic analysis. I would love for Andre to just step in, because I know this is your field of expertise. So I would, just dive in, Andre.
Yeah. Yeah, I think heuristic analysis is completely underrated because, first of all, there are many things that people won't admit or say in an interview or user research, or that you don't see in your data. So I'm a big fan of heuristic analysis because you can put in all the behavior patterns and psychological principles, emotional things first. Second, you can also analyze your competitors. That is so insightful if you run the same analysis not only with your website but with others. You can do it in groups. You can try to give points, make a scoring, a rating, so you can compare different websites. So I think this is a really powerful tool. And last but not least, you can enhance it a lot today with AI. I teach it in my CXL course. I think many people know me because of this. But what's completely missing is that the analysis work itself can be done really objectively with agents, with AI. So you can get the gold nuggets out of it and convince your management. If you show the scores, like which website does what kind of psychological principles, gold.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my take. That's my
Yeah,
little pitch for heuristic analysis.
I absolutely agree. It is one of the most underrated, tools out there, but can be extremely useful in not just understanding where your website stands, but also compare with your competition, right? So that's fantastic. Now, that brings us to the last of user research methods. That is technical analysis, right? So, like I mentioned, friction isn't always your design or your content. Sometimes it's entirely technical. So, speed analysis is extremely crucial. If your page takes too long, users are gone before they even have a chance to engage with you, right? So, you need to use tools to test your page, identify any bottlenecks, if there are any, large images, insufficient code, or slow servers, right? Similarly, you also need to conduct these cross-device, cross-browser testing. Does your website look and function the same on a mobile phone as it does on a desktop, right? So these are certain things that you need to check before you can get or publish your websites, right? Just allows you to avoid certain frictions, right? So, and then again, you need to see if your website, if it works for users on Chrome or for Firefox, Safari. A seamless experience on one device doesn't necessarily guarantee a seamless experience, on all devices. So making sure that your site is technically sound is extremely crucial, or an important step for removing any friction for your users. Now, you've done the hard work of gathering data. You have the what from the analytics, the why from the user research. Now what, right? You can't just make a change based on a feeling. So the next step is to turn these insights, these learnings, into a testable statements. And that's what we call a hypothesis. A hypothesis is a proposed solution to a problem that you've identified, which you then test to see if it works. Now, there are, good hypotheses, there are bad hypotheses. Not all hypotheses are created equal. So a bad hypothesis in this case would be, let's make our page better. I understand you want to make your page better, but then that's too vague, right? How would I make it a good hypothesis is by using a simple formula, right? If we do X, then Y will happen because of Z. I'll give you an example. Let's say that your scroll map has shown that very few people are reaching the call to action button at the bottom of the page, right? So your hypothesis in this case would be, if we move the call to action to the top of the page, then the number of clicks on that button will increase because users won't have to scroll all the way down to see it. Now, this is a specific testable statement with a very clear reason behind it, right? Now, so once you have all of these insights, you've created your hypothesis. You go about creating as many hypotheses as you want, right? Let's say you have 30, 40, even 50 hypotheses based on all these problem spots that you've identified. Now, once you have put all of these ideas into testable statements, do you have a system in place to see which ones should you pick first, or do you just go about testing all of them? Right?
Exactly. And that's what we want to know from you. So we've started a poll where we ask you how do you prioritize your hypothesis? Not at all, or are you following your gut feeling based on data, or do you have frameworks in place? Or if you have anything else, please also type that in the chat. Okay, so people are already voting, but we are only at 20%, so please make your choice. So this time it's only one choice. Give you a few more seconds. 50%. Come on, one more vote. Okay, I think I close it now and we'll show you the results here. Okay, we have okay, so no one is not prioritizing hypothesis. That's already good, I think. So we have 14% saying they follow the gut feeling, 57%, so the highest, they base it on data, and 29% based on frameworks. So what do you see? Good?
Yeah, absolutely. That's brilliant. And because prioritizing is extremely important, and that's what I talk about. This is a very simple framework. Before you can even rush to testing, you definitely need to prioritize, because not every hypothesis is worth the time and effort and even your resources, right? So prioritization can help you focus on the limited resources that you have, on tests that are more likely to provide you any meaningful return. So this simple framework, the impact versus effort matrix, right? So the goal here is to find the sweet spot in the top left quadrant of the matrix. That is the high impact, low effort hypothesis. So these are changes that you can implement relatively quickly, that have potential to make a big difference, like changing your content or changing your a little bit of just the design elements. They give you quick wins, but also help you build a momentum for your optimization program. And what you want to do, avoid at least, is these high effort, low impact quadrants, right? So those are your money pit, because these projects might take weeks for you to implement, but are likely to give you a very, very small, shift in conversion. So by prioritizing your hypothesis, you're ensuring that your team's time, your resources are being used as efficiently as possible, to generate the best possible results. Now, once you have your hypothesis, the most effective way to validate is with an A/B test. So that is, pretty much the core of our conversation here. A/B testing is a scientific approach where, of course, everybody knows where you split your website traffic into two groups, right? The first one sees the control, the second, group sees the variation. So the test is run for a set period of time, and then you measure which version is performing better based on your key metrics. So for businesses that are focused on learning, A/B testing is the best tool because it's a low risk way to learn faster without committing to a full scale change. So it tells you what's working, what's not working, providing your team with a safety net to mitigate any bad decisions that you could probably make. Now, what if your business priority isn't primarily about learning, right? What about it's about optimizing for money, right? Achieving quick wins. So that's where a multi-arm bandit is the best choice. Unlike your traditional A/B testing, a multi-arm bandit is more adaptive. It's an adaptive algorithm that automatically sends more traffic to the winning variant in real time. So and a multi-arm bandit is a great choice for websites with high volume, high traffic, transactional websites where the goal is to get the best returns as quickly as possible. But it does come with a trade-off, right? You get quick wins, but you don't get the same deep statistical certainty or insights, into the why one variant is performing better. So I would say this tool is for ruthless efficiency, but not really for understanding user behavior. Now, as you mature in your experimentation program, right, you'll encounter more complex scenarios that require a more advanced testing method. So for businesses with high traffic, a multivariate testing can be extremely powerful. So instead of just testing one change or instead of testing one change, a multivariate testing allows you to test multiple variables at once. So, for example, a new headline, a new image, right, a new call to action, all at the same time. So that this tells the value of multivariate testing lies in the interaction effect that you get, right? So it can reveal that a certain headline works well with a certain image, right? So that's where a multivariate testing can be extremely useful. Split test, on the other hand, is used when you want to test completely different user journeys. For example, you might want to test a single page checkout versus a multi-step checkout process. So it's used when changes are so radical that an A/B test on a single element doesn't cut it, right? So the key to this, like the key is that each test type is defined by your business priorities, your business values, right? From learning about user behavior to optimizing for revenue or testing radical new ideas. So it all depends on, what your business priorities, what is your main goal, and the test depends on that. Now, with any scientific experiments, there are certain rules that you need to follow to ensure your results are valid, right? So the most common mistakes that we see is peaking bias. Now, this is when you check your test results too early. A test needs to run, long enough to reach what we call statistical significance. So to be sure that your results aren't just due to a random chance, right? Checking too early can lead you to stop a winning test, or even worse, implement a test that truly isn't a winner, right? And then there are other common biases that can completely derail your experiment. There's selection bias. This occurs when your test groups aren't truly random or representative of your overall audience. For example, if one variant is only shown to users arriving from specific ad campaign. So in this case, your results really won't be comparable. Now, you also have novelty effect and change aversion. Now, novelty effect is when a new design performs well just because it's new and people are curious. And the opposite is change aversion, where people initially reject a new design just because people are used to the old one. So the key is to run your test long enough to see these effects subside. And finally, just be aware of the external factors or any historical bias you might. So if you run your test during let's say a major holiday or a large push, the results might not be repeatable under normal circumstances. So you need to be aware that certain things are only possible or are caused due to an external factor there. Then you also need to avoid technical issues. For example, sample ratio mismatches, right, where your traffic isn't evenly split between your variants. And then you have pre-exposure differences that can totally break a fair comparison between your test groups. And then your test your if you're testing without a clear hypothesis, if you don't have a specific problem to solve, a clear solution to test, your results are pretty much meaningless. You'll have the data, but you definitely will not have any learnings. So, it's the difference between collecting random facts and then doing real research, right?
May I add something, Athira?
Yes, yes, of course.
I've seen thousands of experiments, and one of the biggest reasons why experiments fail is mistakes inside the test concept. So I'll give you one example. I just want to add that because I would estimate the amount of experiments that fail around 30%. Let's assume your hypothesis in e-commerce, a bigger product picture leads to more conversions. So what do people do? They change the layout of a PDP and they move things around. For example, call to action drops below the fold for a higher amount of users, leading to negative results. And this is really expensive because it's a false negative. The idea might have been good. It might have
Yeah.
led to, like, let's say 3-4% more revenue or sales, but it was just tested wrongly because the hypothesis was not isolated. It sounds like an artificial example, but it happens so many times. It might be a wrong wording, a detail, something you overlook. And this is so expensive because you have the opportunity cost of the 3% uplift you're now missing out because you're thinking, oh, it didn't work. Yes, it did. You just tested it wrongly.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and the
absolutely.
second effect, because you have many statistical things here,
Mhm.
minimal detectable effect size.
Mhm.
So many online shops, websites have a low amount of sample size,
Mhm.
so
Yes.
they can't see effects in a certain range, which we call minimal detectable effect size. If you have like a 5-digit amount of conversions each month, this size, MDE, might be already around 3 or 4% uplift. So anything below that, you
Mhm.
won't just not see it
No, yeah.
statistically. Again, opportunity cost. You think, well, it didn't work. Test results is not significant. But actually, it worked. It's just so small that you don't see it. So invest in your data power, and data scientists use models and AI and correlation and so on to get this minimal detectable effect size smaller. Because running tests longer is not a solution. It diminishes also your
Yeah.
results. And this is the second biggest mistake I see so many times. People saying, well, it was not significant, didn't work. And they throw it away. Well,
Yeah.
it gave you, let's say, 2% uplift. You just don't see it significant
Yeah.
because your sample size is so small.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yes. Sample size is a big thing, um, because that shows how much of a lift you're
Yeah,
gonna see. You don't have too many people. There's only
yeah,
this much you can see.
yeah. That's why we invest a lot in also together with AI. Again, a topic where AI helps you a lot. You don't need to be the data science pro to get things right here, but you can use correlations between different goals to narrow it down a little bit and to set the right goals also in your test concept already. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Okay. So thank you so much, Andre. Let's move on to the next one. So what are the do's of A/B testing? Once you have an idea of what you shouldn't do, we'll pretty much give you an idea what you can do. So always have a clear hypothesis. Run your test for full duration. Does not mean you keep running it for like over 4 weeks, 5 weeks, because the more you run, there is a chance of you polluting your sample, right? So, about 2 weeks, 3 weeks should be okay, depending on the sample size that you have. Then focus on a single clear goal, right? For example, if your goal is to increase your newsletter signups, right? Don't simultaneously try to increase product sales in the same test. So you need to keep it simple. You need to be more focused. And then you have, always make sure that you have the right tools in place. Your experimentation platform should be able to handle traffic splitting, data collection, statistical analysis for you, so you can focus on building your hypothesis and interpreting those results. So these are do's of experiments. Now let's frame this as a process, right? Experimentation is not a one-time project. It's an iterative loop, right? You hypothesize, you test, you learn, and then you take those learnings and immediately feed it back into your next hypothesis. So it's important to manage expectations, because most of your tests will fail, right? In this industry, we say that you might probably have to run, say, 10 failed tests for probably one good win, right? So don't let that discourage you, because just because your test didn't win doesn't mean that your experiment failed, right? Every failed test provides you with a critical insight. That is, it tells you what your users don't want, right? It definitely gives you a deeper understanding of those friction points, right? And this is how you build a reliable knowledge base for yourself. So you keep running this loop, right? Constantly improving the page until eventually, you reach a point, what we call local maximum, right? This is the point where incremental A/B testing on that page or that element, right, stops getting you any significant results. So you've essentially optimized the current paradigm as far as it can go. So to really make a truly disruptive leap and unlock the next level of sustainable growth, you can't just find another button to change. You must adopt a more wider, a systematic approach, right? You need to move from just running a few tests to making experimentation the engine that grows your entire business strategy. And that's why culture of continuous experimentation is so crucial. Now, in today's in today's world, right, a systematic approach to testing, is not just a marketing gimmick, right? It's a competitive edge. It's a competitive advantage. Many leading businesses, right, have moved away from just spending money on ads or on SEOs, and are heavily investing in building this culture. Why? Because it transforms your business from one that just goes about just guessing what is going to work to actually validating those assumptions. Now, an organization with this culture, right, builds a system that's consistently running tests, measuring their impacts, and creating a centralized repository of learning. Now, the shift from just doing to experimenting at scale is critical, because it's about reducing those risks, right? It's about making better decisions. Every new feature that you push out, every new change that you're making on your website, right, carries a risk of possibly confusing your users or even hurting. Not every change that you make is going to give you positive results. Some may even give you a negative results, just like Andre spoke. So the only way to make sure that you're making a positive change is, again, to test. Now let's take Spotify for example. They basically embody this fail fast, learn fast philosophy, because last year more than 58 teams in Spotify ran over 500 experiments just on their mobile home screen, right? They know that most of these experiments won't win, but every single one has provided a valuable insight. It tells them what not to ship, helping them avoid any costly regressions or poor product decisions that could probably alienate their hundreds and millions of users, right? So by embracing this culture of continuous learning, you're not just optimizing a single web page. You're building a business that knows its customers better, can adapt much faster, and is positioned for sustainable long-term growth, right? So that's why I say that experimentation is no longer a nice to have. It's an engine for your future success. Now, everybody's talking about AI, right? And even Andre emphasized on the importance of AI. So where does AI fit into all of this, right? It's not a replacement for experimentation, and it's definitely not a replacement for human, right? What I like to say is it's an accelerator. AI tools can analyze vast amount of data, far more than what we can do, and it can help you identify patterns and insights that you might have missed. They can even suggest you hypotheses based on that data. So AI can help you automate parts of your analysis. It can totally speed up the process of creating test variations. It can help you find new opportunities for growth. Learning with AI is happening at a much faster pace, right? In today's world where organic search is constantly changing and becoming more unpredictable, right? AI powered experiments are becoming essential for any marketer, right? It helps you get smarter at a much faster pace. Now, we've spent this time establishing a crucial point, that is that lasting success comes from not just a single winning test, but committing to a growth mindset, building a true experimentation culture, right? So my next question, or I'm assuming your next question would be, how do you operationalize that? How do you bring all of these methods, the quantitative data, the qualitative why, the hypothesis, the tests, right, into a single reliable system? And this is where we've directed our own journey at Zoho. We realized that, teams to truly embrace this culture, they need a platform that unifies this entire process, right? So we've designed PageSense to be more than just an A/B testing tool. It's dedicated growth platform that brings everything together: your heat maps, your session recordings, your technical analysis, your A/B testing, right? All in one place. And our platform is also built to support new processes. And because we are a part of a much larger Zoho ecosystem, you can ensure that the smooth, optimized customer journey that you create online, right, is seamless across, seamless all the way through to your sales and service teams as well. Now, I also want to emphasize the trust and scalability aspect of things with PageSense, because when you're dealing with customers' data and optimizing a global business, right, these things matter most. So our philosophy is privacy first. We don't rely on third-party ad revenues, which means your user data is absolutely secure, and this commitment to this commitment to trust is also backed by by being fully compliant with global standards like GDPR, CCPA, ISO. And finally, coming to the scalability, we are built for global scale. We run on the same infrastructure that powers over 130 million Zoho users worldwide. So with 12 global data centers, we ensure that your data is processed much faster and efficiently, and while respecting local data residency laws and delivering fast performance globally. So that was a little bit about Zoho Paid Sense. And with that, I'd like to end this webinar, and I'm more than happy to take any questions you might have. And I also have my QR code in case you want to connect with me, and then continue our conversations there. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Thea. Brilliant timing. So I think there's a question I see. Ah, it's a question to us, Julia. I registered on the Optimize AI waiting list a few weeks ago.
I will check that internally, and we will get back to you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, exactly. You will get an update today because we launched our very own AI tool. So you mentioned AI and the incredible possibilities we have here. And so, yeah, people are curious about this. But towards I like your analogy about the leaking bucket for Zoho on what you guys are actually doing with your product, because I think it's awesome. Why? I see so many people focusing on their analytics data, on all the data they have, and it's so hard just to see which are the pages in my funnel where I should focus on, right? It's such a complex thing.
Yeah.
So could you give us some more impressions how it actually works?
Yeah, so of course. So the web analytics in Paid Sense, right? It's all about bringing in data from all of the channels. So
Yeah.
once you have, so we as soon as you add the snippet onto your website, we do the full tracking.
Hmm.
We start tracking which pages are getting clicks, how many visits, if there are new returning. Then we also track the acquisition aspect of things, which channels are performing or which channels are bringing in more visitors, which sources are bringing in more visitors, right? UTM tracking is a great way for that. Behavior analytics as well. Now it can tell you which pages are converting better, how your conversions are for certain low performing pages and things like that. So I would say it's pretty comparable to what your Google Analytics does, but then again, a combination of Google Analytics, because we do offer integration with Google Analytics, so a combination of Google Analytics along with our analytics is just going to be perfect. So yeah, so we also have a ton of other metrics, integrations that we offer. But yeah, Google Analytics is one of the common ones that go along with our product.
I realize there's a big effect inside the customer journey. Let me explain. Many people invest in building great landing pages
Mm-hmm.
or optimizing their AdWords. So I'm landing on a website with a nice experience. I click the next button, and then my expectations are maybe like what I see then does not fit to my expectations. So it's overpromised, under-delivered. So now this page might be the page that looks weak traffic-wise or click-wise with a high bounce rate.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is maybe that I miscommunicated it before with the expectation, like wrong expectation
Mm-hmm.
management. I don't know. Is that clear to the principle? Because inside the data,
Mm-hmm.
you won't see this, right? You just see the
Yeah.
page which performs
Yes,
weakly, but
yes,
the re
absolutely.
yeah,
Exactly. So I think that's the difference, right? So these analytics only give you the numbers, but
yes,
you don't really see what is happening.
yeah,
You see that the bounce rate is really high, or you only see the clicks are not happening,
yeah.
right? And that's exactly where you have these heat maps, you have these session recordings, scroll map, attention map, all of this,
Mhm.
where you can, if you run it on your page, you'll see exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
And then you also have these farm analytics, let's say, because farm is where most conversions go to die,
Mhm.
right? So you have farm analytics within PageSense that helps you analyze how your farms are performing, which fields
Mhm.
are taking off most conversions, or are conversion killers,
Mhm.
I would say.
Mhm.
So of course, web analytics or analytics side of things only give you why, but then the real picture you get only after you club,
Hmm.
the why aspect of it. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I spoke in the slides as well, that you only start to make sense of it when you
Hmm.
start seeing data and you combine it together,
Hmm.
right?
That,
Taking decisions just based on web analytics is not going to get you anywhere
yeah.
because you
That's
don't
why
even know.
it's yeah,
Right.
that's why it's called page sense, because then
Exactly.
everything makes sense. Great, great.
Exactly.
Now I
You
get it.
understand.
We have one last question, time-wise. I think this one we can fit in. It's from Raphael. He asks, how important is frequent testing of the shopping cart or checkout process to you compared to other areas such as landing pages? So, I mean, of course, there's a different priority in testing top of funnel, lower funnel. What's your take on this?
So I would say it again depends on your business goals,
Mm,
right? For certain things that might be important for me may not be important for another business. So
mm,
now let's say if my business focuses on optimizing for money, right? If my focus is to improve, let's say, purchases, then in that case, I would prioritize on running, tests on my checkout pages
mhm,
versus landing pages,
mm,
right? So it again depends on what your company goals are.
mhm.
So that's what
Yes.
something, yeah.
Depends on so many variables.
Right.
One general observation I can share with Raphael, I think testing in the lower funnel makes a lot of sense because you kind of reach 100% of your relevant segment.
Hmm.
But motivation of people is then already quite fixed. It's hard to change motivation and therefore to change behavior because that's what we actually do with an A/B test, right? We're influencing behavior, and inside a checkout there is not so much to do. While in the upper funnel, it's easier to change motivation, but you're far away from your business goal, which is another thing. So this is why I realized when I look at the data of our thousands of experiments, there's a sweet spot, which means in e-commerce models, experimenting around product page, like the mid funnel, usually is the best trade-off between these two extremes. So
Right.
that will be
I think
my
that's a good point, Andre. Like, yes, like you mentioned, right? Once they have reached out your checkout, they pretty much made their decision,
hmm,
right? So it's what you want to change. That is where
yeah, yeah,
their let's say landing page, like you said. It would make sense for you to test that because they're not very sure. It could
hmm,
change. Like they have
yeah,
intention of performing something, but then they so that's where you want to probably
yeah,
focus. But again, yes, it again depends on what your business priorities
yeah,
are. What do you
yeah,
want to see,
yeah,
right? Do
yeah,
you want to change behavior or do you want to maximize on
yeah,
the current opportunity that you have?
exactly.
Yeah.
So thanks again, Athira, for
Thank you
your
so much.
time and all the valuable insights.
Thank you. It was lovely being here. And thank you so much, Julia,
Thank
for
you.
organizing it, both of you. It was amazing and I had so much fun. Thank you,
Same
everyone.
here. Thank you. And we will
Great,
send you all the recording and the slides afterwards. And if you want to reach out, I've also copied in Athira's LinkedIn profile.
All
great.
right.
Thank you
Take
Great.
so
care,
much.
everyone. Thanks for listening.
See you
Talk soon.
soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.